Welcome to Stop Overthinking, the podcast for overthinkers, people pleasers, and perfectionists who want to feel calm and confident enough to handle whatever life sends your way. I'm your host, Kristen Odegaard, a women's life and mindset coach, lifelong educator, and recovering perfectionist. Welcome back to the Stop Overthinking podcast. Today we're going to talk about why holidays are so hard for overthinkers, people pleasers, and perfectionists. The holidays have this over the next few weeks to make it better for you. As you've heard me talk about before, expectations and anything that is attached to the word should have the potential to be problematic for you. Not that it's bad to have expectations, but whether or not it is tied into reality and what you are able to control. And there are so many expectations tied around the holidays in the month of December. You have expectations from your past and what you like. And if you have a partner, they have their own experiences and expectations. We think it's supposed to be light and fun, and we want to revisit traditions and activities and have certain kinds of food and ways of celebrating. We have expectations around culture and family and religious experiences. We also have expectations around social engagement, everything from holiday parties to school choir concerts. In your work life, it is the end of the quarter and the end of the year, which can bring additional pressure just to this time of year. It's the convergence of a lot of different events in November and December. Along with more expectations we have about what kind of memories that we want to make and create, what kind of decorations should be put out. We have expectations on money and spending. From what we spend on gifts and entertaining, and do you need a new outfit? And those expectations with money can also lead to more spending or even overspending, which then causes even more stress and anxiety. So many people go into debt around the holidays due to expectations of gift giving and entertaining. And we might be overindulging in food or alcohol because it's more readily available, or even that you're using it as a way to deal with the other stress at gatherings to distract from feelings that are coming up from trying to meet all these expectations. Holidays are tough when you are trying to be perfect and to keep other people happy. We think that if we just do the right thing, it's going to create this magic and others will love it. And as long as they are happy and not upset, and then we all get along and it's great. And when it doesn't happen quite that way, then there are negative emotions like frustration, disappointment, resentment, even guilt and grief. And the holidays can end up being like this ping pong match back and forth between emotions. There's so much going on. Other people are involved, and it can just be a lot. Another component to holiday stress and why it's hard for people pleasers and perfectionists is that most of my listeners here are women. And we are largely in charge of the cooking, the shopping, the baking, the party planning, the cleaning, the entertaining. Even just one meal or one event. You're planning, you're shopping, you're prepping, you're cooking, you're cleaning up. You might invite other people to help or they might volunteer, but you're still coordinating it all. So we have expectations. And remember when I have talked about the manual, your rule book of how it should be, right? Those are basically our expectations. We have rules around how the holidays should be. We have roles that we play during the holidays and roles that we expect other people to play and participate in over the holidays. And often these are things that we don't even think about. It could just be that you're the one who always hosts the family dinner, or you're the person who always makes sure that people are included. Or maybe you don't do any of that and your expectation is that holidays are a vacation. But notice your expectations. Another place where so many expectations come into play is with your family. Family can be a huge source of stress. We have family members we love and family members that we don't love quite as much, or maybe we don't love them at all. People that we see regularly and we enjoy spending time with, or some that we only see once or a couple times a year. Maybe you're traveling and maybe you have people come stay with you. All of this, again, just gets added into the pile of expectations. Combine this with the fact that many of us have inner wounds from our childhood that we carry around that are from these same people, our family members, and the family dynamics. And then that gets brought up during this holiday season when there are so many other things going on. With extended family, we often fall into our childhood roles of like listening to our mom and dad, even if it's not what we want to do, what's not best for ourselves or our family. We fall into these old patterns and habits. We find ourselves engaging in the same patterns of behaviors with siblings, even though we're now adults. Again, more fodder for all of these expectations. It becomes this. So, the most important thing for you to do ahead of time is to notice, what are your expectations? Are they realistic? If you want this magical time, but the reality is that you are this intermediary and trying to navigate between the kids fighting or the drunk uncle who has things to say that nobody really wants to hear, or you're going to this family event and you know that there's always a source of tension around something. Of course, you can want it to be different, but consider, what role are you playing? Do you have a way to make this change, or is your expectation really more of a fantasy? Because that is when the frustration and the resentment and the disappointment really can set in, when you have these expectations that do not align with reality. Consider all of the people that are involved. You only control you, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your behaviors. Everybody else you might be able to influence, but they're their own humans. So, how can your expectations of what would be good align with reality to give you a holiday season that is enjoyable? It might not be perfect. It might not be magical. Maybe it's just better than it was years before. And you can build on that. So, a couple of weeks ago, my kids and I had a conversation about our holiday decorating, right? As they were little, and when I was married, we had the house decorated, lights outside in the front and the back. The house was decorated on 2 floors with multiple trees, and it was, that's what worked at that point in our lives. My parents lived in town and my mom loved Christmas. And again, it was decorated to the hilt, Pinterest worthy. Well, I don't have parents that live here anymore. I'm no longer married. It's just me. And sometimes, like this year, I just don't have the bandwidth to put all of that together, especially on my own. So my kids are teens, and we had a conversation about, are you going to help me with pulling out the tree? Have an artificial tree. It needs to be fluffed. It needs to be decorated. And the kids are excited to have the finished product, but often they're not real excited about participating. And nobody is exciting about putting it away in January. So we had a conversation about what we're willing to do. And what we ended up with, I've put a picture a couple of times on my social media. It's like a 4.5-foot pre-lit artificial tree that's really probably supposed to be like a porch decoration. We each picked out 12 ornaments, put them on the tree. It took less than 15 minutes and we were done, because that's what we were willing to invest and put away in. And it's not Pinterest worthy in the sense of all those things. And it isn't taking up this giant corner in the living room. We still put up, the mantle decorations, some of the other things. So it was good enough. Is that my dream Christmas decoration? No, not particularly. But that's what we've got for this year, and we're all fine with it. We contribute. We had a conversation, and that's what made sense for us. The other source of expectations and a lot of frustration that I hear from people is tied up in giving and receiving gifts. And I alluded to this before, right? There's so many different things with this. It takes time, it takes money. We have expectations about how people should receive our gift and to how they're going to respond. And we get very caught up in this. And so just be aware. If you are a person who loves shopping and spends months of the year doing this and being very intentional and picking out these things, you might have expectations about when the person opens it, about what that expression should be, what they should say, how they should look, how they should be thankful or grateful. And that's completely your right. Those are your expectations. It's part of your manual, but it might not be the same for the other person. And so again, check your expectations. What are the dynamics? Some people go into this that gift giving is like this obligation, and the holidays are not the most joyful time of year for them. And so this is just something that we need to go through. Be aware of that. For some people, the financial stress just adds a whole nother layer onto this. I like sharing this experience from when I was growing up because it tends to be very different in the gift giving and receiving realm than a lot of people. So when I was growing up, both of my parents worked in retail in stores. We had a lot of stuff. We had stuff coming in and stuff being returned. I grew up, and when I was a teen, that was my first job working in the juniors department at JCPenney's when I was 16, right? Buying and returning things was not a big deal. And that was part of our gift giving experience as well. So if I got a birthday gift or something from my parents and was like, oh, well, I don't love this, it wasn't like that big of a deal. It was okay, well, let's go back to the store and exchange it. My mom even had this tradition as we were growing up of either or gifts. So my brother and I would get under the tree, it would say Kristen, and there would be 2 packages, and it would say Kristen, either or. And when I would open those, I would get to choose either this gift or that gift, but I didn't get both. And it was kind of like a fun little game. Sometimes it was, a sweater in a different color, or maybe it was a whole outfit or different things. And it was just my mom's like, oh, I think you might like both of these and pick one. Right. And so that was my experience. And then as I got older and noticed with other families and had a boyfriend and got married and was exposed to other people, and I'm like, oh, other people have really different feelings and put on these faces like they need to receive this in a certain way. And that was so foreign to me. Like, I really appreciate your effort. And so consider that as you are interacting with people, especially if you are getting into extended families and maybe your siblings are married and there's other kids and partners, and everybody has their own experiences and traditions and ways of doing things that might not be yours. And as much as you want it to be your way, yours isn't the only way. So, what are some of the things that you can just let go of, right? I talk about your values, your core priorities, and what's really important. Is it just simply spending time with your family? Then don't get so bent out of shape about other people's behaviors. So, what's important? Let go of the other little things when people aren't behaving the way you want them to, that isn't ideal, that don't meet your expectations. Can you let some of that go? It's not about letting other people off the hook. It's about you being able to feel better, to just experience in the present moment, to be present, to enjoy the time together, to enjoy the food, to enjoy the traditions without expecting people to be different than they really are. So I also want to invite you to a free webinar that I am hosting next week. It's called Navigating the Holidays with Calm, Confidence, and Ease. It's a free webinar that's going to be hosted on Zoom. It will be interactive. It's on Monday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Central. If you are not able to attend live, the replay is available. And we are going to talk about recognizing your expectations, how to determine where your baseline is and what's realistic. Also, if you need to have some boundaries for your time and for your energy, what's appropriate and how to set those. For you to be able to notice if you have too much on your plate and where do you need to really reconsider what you are doing over the holiday season. So this is something that I offered last year. It was really well received. I invite you to register for it. The link is in the show notes. And even if you can't attend live, again, register and I will be sending out that replay as well. And we will talk about what I addressed in this podcast, but also go deeper and take a look into your questions or what some of those personalized situations might be that you could use a different perspective on going into this holiday season. So I hope that hearing some of this today is able to get you to think ahead of time. What do you want? What do you need? And how does that deal with your current dynamics and reality? What's a reasonable expectation? That's where you're going to feel calm and peaceful and less stressed out. So have a great week. I hope to see you at the Navigating the Holidays webinar. Thank you for listening to the Stop Overthinking podcast with Kristen Odegaard. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else who would benefit from the message. To learn more about working with me and links to social media and free resources, head over to my website, coachwithkristen.com. That's Kristen spelled Kristen. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. Have a great week.